G'day guys, and welcome to
episode 103 of the Teacher Emilio podcast.
Thank you. And look, group, today on this episode, I'm slowly bringing everybody from the study tour from Japan. Can you believe it's been almost a year?
It's been a long time.
Wait, and that means it's almost like a year since last time we met.
Yeah,
It would have been like at least 6 months, maybe, when we had the group from Japan visiting, right?
Yeah, in March. So.
Oh my God, time flies. You know, we're gonna blink, and then this is the middle of October. We're gonna blink, then it's December, and then oh my God, starting with all the New Year's resolutions. Well, guys, today we've got Angus, and we're gonna talk about what not to tell Australians. Angus, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Very excited.
No. Thank you for your support, for being part of the podcast, and thank you for coming. Now, before we begin, please tell us a bit about yourself. I mean, I know you, but for people who don't know you, what would you say?
So my name's Angus. I've been living in Melbourne. I'm 23. I'm studying at RMIT, my final year of international studies. And last year I met Emilio on the study tour to Japan.
Nice. Don't forget to tell them we had a good time.
Yeah, we had the best time, of course.
Thank you. Yeah, and also like interesting conversations about like Japanese, how to say things, practice, trying different food. Oh my God, Japan was really good. If you're watching this and you've never been to Japan, please go. You have to. I'm super biased because I love Japan, but anyways, you'll have a good time. Yeah. And if you're listening to the podcast and you're thinking, oh, I want to go to Japan one day, look, message me. You're gonna get your private flight center, Now, Angus, I thought, and I told you this before we started recording, like I always wanted to bring you to the show, and I thought it would be interesting but a part of me is like, what should we talk about? And then I remembered that before we went to Japan, in one of the briefing sessions we had, you did, so we had to basically do a presentation, right? On like a word that had a cultural meaning.
Yeah, something that like the literal meaning isn't exactly what it means. It's like, it's not exactly the same way you use it.
And look, you could imagine, I think out of 12, there were only 2 non-Australians. Well, actually, sorry, like maybe 3 or 4. And I was one of them. So for me, that was easy. I said a few things in Spanish. But then out of the Aussies, a lot of them, they said something like good eye or mate. But then you said a completely different word. Yeah. Please tell us. Can you summarize that story to us?
So the words I picked for my presentation was like champ or champion and buddy. And so the story that I told was, it was, I went to get lunch one day and I was just ordering at the front, talked to the guy, and I just said what I wanted to get. I was got to get some noodles. And then I said, thank you, paid for my meal. And he goes, oh yeah, no worries, champ. And I'm like, I was a bit shocked. I was like, why would you do that? Like, it's not something you say to someone. So then I went on to explain about how like champ and buddy, not a very good thing to say to an Australian person, has a very different meaning than like the literal meaning of like a champion, someone who's winning something. So.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I have to cut you off for a second.
Yeah.
And when I was watching, a part of me is like, that doesn't make sense, because maybe you are thinking that too, because it's like champion sounds good.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, champion, or like champ. Okay, maybe champ, I could get that, maybe like how would you say it, but champion sounds good. And actually, buddy, it's, I completely forgot about buddy, so thank you for saying that. The buddy is a tricky one.
Yeah.
Because, yes, I think it all depends on how you say it, right?
Yeah, well, I think buddy, like most of the time you call someone buddy, it's like a little kid. You call like a little kid like your nephew or something, oh yeah, good job, bud, good work. So if you're like an adult and someone calls you buddy, to me it seems like they don't really like respect you at all.
So it's almost like as if someone is looking down on you.
Yeah, it's like a power move. It's like I think I'm better than you, basically. If you call someone buddy.
Okay, look, for everybody watching, a power move.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Because again, remember, a part of me is you're throwing so many good comments and things, and a part of me is like, look, maybe for a power move, it's like, does it mean like, do you say something to like be powerful? What's
sort of just like asserting authority over someone, like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's almost like implying in an indirect way, like I'm stronger than you, or like I'm better than you, or
yeah, basically.
Okay. Interesting. So yeah, so that's a power move. There you go. So you gotta be careful. Okay, so with buddy, but yeah, especially bud, because when you
Yeah.
said bud, it's like, yeah, good job, bud. I think
Yeah.
we've seen in movies that, a little kid
I hate
or
it. It's
something,
like terrible.
good job, bud. Maybe it's got like that, I don't know, demeaning
Yeah, exactly.
into it. But what about champ?
Yeah.
Because again, as you were saying, champion is good. The meaning is like, oh, you're a champion.
Yeah.
Like if you win something, right? You're the champion. You're UEFA Champions League, for
Yeah.
example, for my soccer fans. But what about champ?
Yeah. Well, I think it's different if you say like someone is the champion. It's like a different to just calling someone champ. Because I feel like it's, championing someone. It makes you think like they think that they're a champion. They think that they're better than what they actually are. That's the way like I seem to interpret it.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
So like so when you were ordering food, and let's say if I'm the guy, if I say,
Yeah.
"Oh, here you go, champ,"
Yeah.
it's like you think you are a champion.
Yeah.
Sorry, or I think that you think you are a champion, but
Yeah.
you are not.
Yeah.
Oh,
Basically, yeah.
okay.
That's the same with like a bunch of other words you can call people as well. So things like, what do you say, like hero, legend, muscles, like things like that.
Look, let's break this down because look, I have to write them down. I don't want to forget. Actually, I did a bit of my homework,
Yeah.
and after watching a video that had a few of these words, I said I have to talk to Angus. I have to bring him to the show. So, for example, with muscles, right? Like
Yeah.
I've been going to the gym for the past 5 to 6 months, and a bit more seriously, let's say for the past 2 months.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I haven't got like
And looking
muscles,
good.
but thank you. A bit better than before, right? Losing a few kilos. But, I'm just thinking if someone says, hey, muscles, come here,
Yeah.
like my interpretation is like, maybe that person is not that strong, right? Or because in South America, or I don't know, maybe it's only in Venezuela, we use that sarcasm a lot. Like, for example, it's almost like you could call me like, hey, blondie.
Yeah.
And I'm not blonde, but it's like a joke there
Yeah.
type of. How does muscle work?
I think muscles would also be something like you'd more say to a kid who thinks he's like really strong. So yeah, you call that someone like call an adult that, it just brings back like it's very demeaning. Like you think you're basically like a little kid who thinks he's like really strong.
Oh, okay. But what about I was thinking like imagine someone in high school who thinks he's really tough
Yeah.
or like really strong, going to
Yeah.
the gym
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly.
And then it's like, hey, muscles, like strong guy, come here. And then they cannot lift something, and then everyone starts making fun
Yeah,
of them,
yeah,
type of. So it brings that back, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Because I thought it could also have like a different meaning, like you call someone muscles, and it's like the least athletic person you have
Yeah.
met.
Yeah,
So it's
that
like
could be on as well.
because it could be like, I mean, I'm like super skinny or let's say super overweight, and I clearly cannot lift,
Yeah.
let's say, this table with you. And then you're like, hey, muscles,
Yeah.
come help me. And
I
it's
think
like,
a lot of these words are like very like sarcastic.
Okay.
So it's like-
so sarcastic. I'm going to put that here. So lots of sarcasm,
yeah.
which can be tricky, because depending on the culture, it's going to be challenging.
Yeah.
We went
you
to Japan.
have to spend a long time to get used to the sarcasm. Yeah.
It's tricky. I've been here for 12 years and I don't like these things. Do you know
Yeah.
why? Because we have also like the different levels of sarcasm in South America. And I think my Latinos are now listening to me going, teacher, I feel you, man. Because it's like sometimes we want to try to make a joke or say something, but maybe because we don't know that right level of sarcasm, it's like we say something and it's like, oh, that's not funny, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. And yeah, it's tricky. Or like, we went to Japan, and
Yeah.
in Japan it's the complete opposite. It's like, I'm not going to say there isn't sarcasm, but it's like almost non-existent, the same way that we have it here in,
Yeah.
let's say, in the West. So interesting. Oh, you gotta, like you were saying, spend a lot of time to get used to it.
Yeah. And I was thinking like, when we went to Japan, I've basically kind of understand Japanese. If they started like using like sarcasm things, like I just imagine like I'd have no idea what was going on. So it put into perspective for me, people who are learning English and how difficult that must be to understand like sarcasm when understands things that are like hidden meanings behind things when like literal meanings don't directly translate. Yeah.
Exactly. And, as you just said that, it reminded me when I lived in Australia for maybe like my first 5 years. I think for like the first 12 months, I tried to keep the most American accent I possibly
Yeah.
could. Whenever people said thanks, mate, I would be like, you are welcome. Or I would never say biscuit. I would always say cookie and little things like that, right? And then I noticed that I said to myself, look, I've been in Australia for like 4 years, maybe 4 or 5. I should be more Australian. And I used to work door knocking. And then there were some kids playing. I said to one of them, hey, mate, blah, 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 blah. I don't even remember what I said to him. Like, hey, mate, how's your day going? And then he's like, don't mate me.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell? It's the first time I'm using mate. And I was like, why? Because I'm not your mate. After that, I swear to you, for like the next, 3 years, that was like childhood trauma.
Yeah.
As an adult, I said, I'm never calling people mate again. I'm never saying any Aussie word. Oh my God, I knew it.
Yeah.
So it comes back to...
yes.
Because you hear that all the time. Good, I might. I said mate once. It's like, no, don't mate me. Oh my God, that was so tricky.
I think like majority of the time, mate's just a good thing to call someone. It sounds like this kid was a bit of a wasn't very friendly. It sounds like it.
Yeah, or maybe also like the way I said hi. I don't know.
Yeah, but I guess it comes back to like the sarcasm as well. If you know someone's using it sarcastically, it can be a different thing to just a normal, hey mate, how's it going?
How could someone use it sarcastically?
I don't know. It's difficult to explain, but I'm not sure how to explain it.
But because if you think, what I'm thinking is, mate could be like a friend, right? Or like someone that you know. So yeah, maybe if someone is, I don't know, or maybe like in that situation, like that kid is like, I'm not your mate, like I'm not your friend.
Yeah. I guess if you had like a disagreement with someone, it's like, hey mate, calm down. Is that mate?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's like trying to say like, yeah, you should be a mate. You should be better than what you're doing. So just leave it. Or I guess you could use it like that. And there's also, we were talking about before, like saying like, oh, that's your mate. And like in a completely sarcastic way, if there was like talking to a friend, you know someone, they don't get along with them very well, you refer to that other person as like, that's your mate. So when he comes over, like, hey, that's your mate, go say hello to him when you know that you just don't get along well.
You know, as you're giving that example, I'm just laughing, imagining when one of my best friends would be like, oh, I hate this person. And then I just go, hey, here's your mate. Go and say hi.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's how it could be used sarcastically. And also like the other example you mentioned is like if you're at a pub, I also thought like imagine if you bump into someone, you could be like sorry, or like if you want to be, I guess if you want to be more, not necessarily aggressive, but if you go like, watch out, mate. Yeah. Maybe that's, what's that? Is that like borderline, or that could be like
passive aggressive? Like,
okay.
Yeah. If you bump into someone, call them. It all depends on the context, I think. I think that's another very hard thing to understand.
And this is why, going back to what you were saying, because a lot of the things come from context, is a mix of being patient and I guess just having different experiences, right?
Yeah.
So you see all this in practice. It's not like two sets of examples when mate can be used in one way or another.
And I think it's so hard to understand. So if you're not sure, like, it doesn't hurt to ask someone.
Thank you. That's why I brought you in. Seriously.
Yeah.
Because I was watching I'll tell you the next one. Say for example with hero, or like with champion. I remember seeing these words and I thought, a part of me is trying to get it, but I need to bring someone who's from here to clarify all this. How about hero?
Hero. Well, again, it's different if you say like someone's my hero. If you say like that's my hero, it's a very good thing to say.
Yeah, like you, I guess you.
Like Emilio's my hero. It's like
Thank you. It's like you look up to someone, right?
Yeah.
But what if you say it in a sarcastic way?
Well, I guess it's similar to champ. It's like when you call someone here, it's like you saying that they think that they're a hero. That they think that they're better than what they actually are, what you think they are.
I think a lot of people don't use the word cool now, but my audience is rather mixed. I have some young, some not so young, and some older ones. So I guess it's almost like when you call someone hero, it's like maybe that person thinks he or she is acting cool, and then if you say, oh, don't be a hero, or like I think I've heard don't be a hero, or like stop being a hero.
Yeah.
So then that means like you shouldn't be, or like
someone's-
stop what you're doing type of
Someone's
thing.
going to try come in and save the day and be tough and make sure everyone's doing the right thing. It's like, hey, come on, like just let people do what they want, basically.
I'm thinking, since we're in a university, maybe
Yeah.
with assignments it could happen. Like maybe, especially like when this happened to me with one of my best friends, different from the best friend I told you before, where we would argue a lot during assignments, and I guess we could be telling each other, like for example, if someone wants to come and let's say we are a group of 4,
Yeah.
and one of them is like, oh, you do this, and he starts to like, I don't know, telling people what to do.
Yeah.
You could be like, oh, don't be a hero.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not saving the day. I think that I mixed it up, but
No, that sounds pretty accurate. That's like perfect context, I think.
okay.
Yeah. Someone's just trying to do everything like, come on, settle down. Like, don't have to be a hero. Like, we can all help out as well.
Okay, or it could be interesting, or I guess if I don't know, something would happen and then you just want to step in to try and look cool,
Yeah.
and then it's like,
exactly.
it's so tricky because then if someone calls you that, what could happen? Because it's like, oh, don't be a hero. Then it's like
Yeah.
complete black down. It's like turning you down type of thing.
Yeah. Oh, pretty insulting. Like, yeah. If someone calls you a hero, it's like you're not trying to do that. It's not a very good thing to be called. So
I guess it will be tricky if you're not doing anything wrong and then people get it the wrong way and then they say, oh, don't be a hero. And you're like, I'm not trying to be a hero.
yeah.
So has that ever happened? Random question.
Oh,
Or have you experienced a time when, for example, hero, champ, buddy, it's been used, maybe not in the cafeteria, but where, maybe the intention wasn't there and someone maybe got that wrong? I think that'll be interesting.
yeah. I see it when I'm working all the time. Like when
No
you
way.
help someone out, someone calls me like buddy or champ, and it hurts. Like
And you're working, so you cannot tell them
exactly.
anything.
Yeah, and I just like, you just cop it and then just complain about it to someone else later. Like, you called me champ before, it made me upset. Like,
Yeah, like why would he call me champ?
yeah.
Tricky. Wait, so you have been called champ like a few times?
Oh
let's
yeah,
say.
it's like happens. Yeah, pretty regularly. I'd say when I'm working, like especially buddy, like yeah, thanks bud. Like you go help someone out, and yeah, cheers bud. And like, do you really like respect me? I feel like you don't respect me. It's like,
Do you think, a random question, is this used by a specific set of people? Because, I mean, a part of me thinks maybe it might be more like from older men, for
yeah.
example.
Not just men. It's like women too. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, mostly it's like people like older than me, probably like middle aged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so that's why I feel like they don't respect me.
True,
yeah.
because it's like, oh, yeah, like, here's a little kid type of...
Yeah, I feel like it was someone older who was working there. I don't think they'd say the same thing.
True, and that's a very good point, because maybe this might be used when, I guess... Is it fair to say that maybe some of this will be used more with like younger people around?
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe it would be like double insulting if there is an older person and you're like, hey, buddy, come here.
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
Yeah,
or
I think that's also one of the things that if you are the same age, it's like more intentional. Like
Oh, okay.
you're more like intentionally like trying to stir them, trying to assert your dominance over them, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, just to double check, when you say not to stir them, it's like you don't want to make them angry, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. I have another one that I used to think it was good, but then you put this, and I'm sorry, I think you mentioned it, or like I watched it in the video.
Yeah.
Legend. I always thought legend is good because it's always like legend, cheers, mate.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, so legend is always good type of thing. But then, tell me what's happening with legend.
I think they're all pretty similar. It all comes down to context. Because if someone helped you out with something, like, yeah, legend, like you say it like that. But if you're saying, you call someone legend when the context is completely different, completely change the meaning.
Because I'm thinking, I mean, if I were to say sarcastically, I mean, say for example, in that going back to that example, like, hey, here's your buddy, go and say hi.
Yeah.
And then I guess if there is a third person that comes in, it's like, oh, who's that person? You could be like, oh, he's a legend.
Yeah.
And then I guess that's where the sarcasm comes in, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not maybe that person is not nice, but you're saying, oh, he's a legend, but obviously he isn't a legend.
Yeah. I guess it's also like if you're trying to be a legend, like that's when you'd call someone out, I think. Something like that. If someone, yeah, if the context is someone's like trying to go in and do everything for the team, it's like, yeah, good work, legend. It's like very sarcastic sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it very depends on context a lot, I think.
You know, when you were saying that, a part of me thought, I mean, I don't know if this is like the best example, but I'm thinking back into uni days. You would go to a bar, and then sometimes imagine if someone says, "Oh, let's have shots, I'll pay the first round." And then it's like, I don't know, maybe you could use any of these ones like, "Oh, don't be a legend, mate." And it's like, bring that person down. Like, we don't want to drink shots. For example, I don't know. Is that how it could work?
Yeah, it could. But I think if someone's buying your shots, you'd probably use it in the literal meaning.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it could go either way. That's just a thing.
It's so tricky
to understand, to pick it up.
It's tricky because I guess it all depends on how it's being used and on like I guess it's something that you cannot practice. Let's say if you talk to someone over the phone or you need to be there face to face to get that, because if not, then it's very tricky.
It could be like the tone they say it with as well, which is another difficult thing to pick up.
Oh, can you give us a few examples?
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot here, but
it's like, legend, like good work, or he's been a legend, like something like that.
Legend. Yes, like it's very like down.
Come on, legend. Like, yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it could be like, especially like if you say it in like a short tone, dropping, it's like, oh, yeah, legend. Yeah, that's good, legend. So it's like, okay. Anyways.
Yeah.
And let's move on type of thing.
Yeah.
Muscles. There is another word that I cannot forget. I've never heard anyone use it. I've only seen it in this video. I think I should I'll put the video in the show notes if you want to check it out. And it's the word chief.
Yeah.
You have when I watched the word chief, I was like, the first thing that came to mind is like CEO or CFO. That's it. But I've never seen people using that in a situation.
Yeah. Pretty rare for chief, I think, especially compared to all the other ones. And I don't think it's probably not as bad. It's just another option, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I thought you were gonna say that chief is a bad one.
Could be. Depends on context. Yeah.
Because maybe chief is because chief is let's say the leader usually, right? Or like the top position at a place, or like, as I said, CEO, chief executive officer, is like the top officer.
Yeah.
So I guess if someone is calling you chief, it's like you are trying to be the boss. Is that how it would work?
Yeah, pretty much. If you had a group, it's like, oh, come on, chief, let's go. It's like this person should be like show more leadership or something similar to that.
Interesting. And yeah, look, it's very tricky because as I'm thinking of all these situations, is exactly what you were saying, or like what we were saying before. If you're learning, especially with the tone is so tricky.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I don't recommend you start using this because I think that the chance of you getting it wrong is super high, But I want to also tell you something, and also to share this with everybody. After I had that mini traumatic experience with the kid telling me, don't mate me, and I said, I'm never calling people mate. Then I thought, look, I had a bit of like a blockage, and I said, I'm never going to say any Australian word. And then like the longer I stayed here, I tried to slowly, maybe grab a few words, but I thought maybe if I'm using some of those words, or like, let's say even some of these ones, or things like mate, or things like cheers. Cheers was like a big eye-opening because I thought, if I use it, then it's like I'm pretending to be Aussie. But then I got a lot of positive feedback from other teachers, people around, and other Aussies saying like, yeah, mate, say cheers, right on. So it's like it's like it's good. So it changed my way of seeing that, and then I slowly tried to. If I want to feel Aussie, I would say cheers.
Yeah.
For example,
I think it's just another word for thank you. It's like a bit more casual. I guess in Australian context, like it's just more casual way to say thank you. You're more of a mate with someone, I guess. In other words, like just to take something from someone.
Okay.
It's not a casual word for thanks.
Or like saying, I don't know, barbecue, Barbie, sunglasses, sunnies. So it's not like, oh, he's really pushing it too much type of.
And I think it's also something you just pick up if you're living in Australia for a long time. And it'd be different if you're living in an English-speaking country like other than Australia.
You know, I guess maybe this is me overthinking. I could be wrong, but I used to think that if I were to use these words, like say for example, oh yeah, mate, let's go to Macca's, or I don't know, oh yeah, cheers, mate, let's go to Macca's, for example, right? Then if I were to say that, maybe someone would come back to me and be like, oh, don't be a hero, mate. Like, don't be like us, you know? It's like you're trying to be like us.
Yeah.
It's like obvious. It's obvious that you're not Australian. Like, don't try to copy us type of thing. So I thought people may say that to me. And I'm happy to say that I'm wrong, you know? I've never had anyone telling me that. Don't leave that comment, okay? Don't leave that comment like, I know I'm not Australian, but please don't do it.
I like it. I think it's just appreciating the culture, I guess, a little bit. If you start to use all these terms, if you understand it as well.
That's look, thank you. Because I guess it's also like, I think about it as a traffic light. Like cheers, no, sorry, not cheers. Like chief, hero, legend, muscles. I will put that on the red
light.
Red light. Maybe don't use it. You just be like, watch out. That it will be really good listening practice if you hear someone around you using those words. But maybe it is fair for us to say that maybe things like cheers. Look, with ta, I had the complete opposite because I sometimes feel that ta is like you're being really posh. So I don't know. Maybe it's because, look, I'll tell you. I'll give you context. I grew up in an island, okay? Mm-hmm. So in a very like small island, and already like people in my country, they would see like, oh yeah, people in the island are like less developed and stuff. So I don't know, when I hear someone like, oh, ta, I get the impression that they are like, oh, I'm like rich, or like, I don't know, I'm really well off.
I haven't heard of that before. Yeah.
No? Or I don't know, it could be me. Or maybe it's like, oh, I'm doing really, I don't know. It's, or maybe the way they've said it made me think that they think they're better than, or I don't know, it could be just, let me know if you've heard anyone saying ta and you think the same. I don't know, maybe it's a South American thing, maybe it's just me and I'm crazy, I don't know. But it's good, so ta doesn't have that meaning.
No.
Okay, good. So you could. Interesting. Now, you touched on that it could be challenging for people learning English. Mm-hmm. As you know, we recently had, 6 months ago, we had people coming from Japan. We showed them around. And look, lots of people who watch the show are people trying to call Australia home. They want to stay here. Mm-hmm. What would be, maybe some general tips? This is like I would say this is very advanced.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't recommend using it. But I'm just wondering,
even other English speakers from different countries probably wouldn't understand.
There you go. Like to my American, Canadian viewers, there you go, guys. Be careful. Be careful, buddy. What would you recommend or what would you say to someone who is trying to improve his or her English and you know that they want to call Australia home? Any tips?
I think it's just you're only going to learn things like this like from context and from hearing it a lot. I think. Practice talking to lots of different people. I think that's the main way you'll learn about this, especially because it's like it is very, very complicated.
And also, you know, what I'm hearing from that tip is like I think in Australia you say this a lot, or you guys like put yourself out there, right?
Yeah.
As in just maybe push yourself a bit, try to do new things. And from those new things, maybe learning will come, practice will come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Nice. And anything else that comes to mind?
Off the top of my head.
I would say, I would add to the list, don't be shy. Maybe don't be like me. Maybe I was overly shy. Don't think too much, but also be careful. We want to be friendly, and we probably want to be perceived as friendly, but you don't want to be like, hey, chief, because then you could get in trouble unnecessarily.
Just practice. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I think that's a big one. I think that was when I was like practicing Japanese. You're always afraid, like to stay back, like sit in your shell a little bit. Don't want to go out there and make mistakes. But the only way you're gonna learn is by practicing.
You know, I remember. I don't know if this is just me going crazy, but I think I mentioned that to you once. I was.
That's why I brought it up. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Look, I was like, Angus, I talk to you in English, and when I listen to you in Japanese, it's like, bro, just don't think too much. Just mess up. You will. Because I remember you were asking me.
It's something I need to work on as well.
I know, of course. Same here. You know, but it's I think that's a very good point. Like not being shy and just knowing that you're gonna make mistakes.
And if if you're trying, like that's the best thing you can do. And there'll probably be people who are rude and don't understand, and I just don't worry about them. I think just do what you need to do to try your best. And if you're trying your best, that's the best you can do.
True. And look, I think this could be applied into any other area of life. I said, earlier that I started going to the gym. I noticed that whenever I was like not necessarily struggling, but I mean, now that I'm doing very slow progress, people around you notice. And I thought it would be more like, oh, this guy's getting stronger, I want to like bring him down type of thing. But it was with the complete opposite. It's like, mate, you're lifting this much, that's good. Or like I've been jumping rope, and it's like, oh, mate, you're doing the double jump, that's good. So yeah, it was really interesting. And I think maybe if you get backlash from someone, like if you're practicing your Japanese or if you're practicing your English, if you make a mistake and people say something to you, it is most likely their problem, I would say.
And I think you're going to find a lot more value out of the people who support you and say, who notice you're doing a good job, than the people who knock you down, I think.
True. Actually, now that you mentioned people knocking you down, since you're from here, I think you know what's my next follow-up question. Yeah. Maybe you guys know too. When it comes to, for example, some of these things like champion, buddy, legend, maybe it's not only that, but a part of me, as we were talking about this, it reminded me of like tall poppy syndrome.
Okay.
I'll tell you, I think I mentioned it before. I used to think it was a dog. And
tall puppy.
Yeah, I was like, that's so weird. And then he's like, Emilio, it's like the flower. And I was like, oh, yes, the flower, of course. And then I just went on Google, poppy flower.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Or I mentioned it in a previous episode, but for someone who maybe missed it, and, since I've got you here, maybe you can tell us a bit about it.
I guess tall poppy syndrome will be about standing out from the crowd, and someone doing well, and then other people like not supporting that. And like the metaphor is like one flower is like taller than all the other flowers, so people come in and cut the flower so they're all the same size.
Do you think some of these words could be related to that? Like maybe someone is really good at something, and then it's like, okay, we know you're really good. You are like, it's getting close to like showing off.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess like calling someone like champs, like saying that they think that they're the tall poppy, I guess.
Oh, okay.
They think that they're better than other people.
So it could.
I think it's probably a cultural thing as well. With I think Australian culture is like very more like egalitarian. Everyone wants to fit in, compared to somewhere like American culture, where it's like everyone's striving to be the best. Everyone's like really loud. Yeah.
Yeah, I think here maybe being too loud may not be perceived as something good. Maybe it depends on the context. But yeah, that's actually a really good point. Oh, and it's so tricky. Actually, funny comment in the podcast, I had a friend who I would just tell him anything. Like, for example, hey, man, I'm learning Japanese. And he's like, stop showing off. Yeah. And I'm like, mate, I'm just telling you, you know? Yeah. And not even like my Japanese is improving. Like, I'm learning Japanese, stop showing off. Like, oh, I can do a double jump, stop showing off. So then it's like, I guess a part of me sometimes, maybe because of this, it's like, okay, I gotta be careful. And then hearing the tall poppy syndrome, it could be, I think some of these things could be related.
Yeah. I guess it's learning who to listen to and who not to listen to. If you have people, like you're surrounded by people who keep trying to bring you down, they're probably not the best people to be around. You want people who can support you and bring you up.
It's a really good point. I remember that, I don't know if I've ever told you this, maybe I did, I could be wrong, but when I was learning Japanese, obviously, as you know, it's a very, for anyone watching this, if you're watching the video, I want you to like tilt your hand almost like 90 degrees. That is like the learning curve in Japanese. You have to put like a bunch of hours, I'm tempted to say like 20 plus minimum, to like get into a basic conversation. So you put in all this hard work to get into it, and then obviously you make a lot of mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So when I started to learn Japanese, a lot of people told me, no, you can't talk to them. These guys are like a robot, Sony, Toshiba, calculator, blah, 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 Toyota. You cannot talk to them. We are from South America, blah, blah, blah. And basically the message is you can't do it. So I just went the complete opposite, like don't listen to the naysayers and just focus on it.
Yeah.
But then I would make mistakes, and sometimes people will be like, oh, hey, you speak Japanese, right? Come talk to him. And
Yeah.
obviously I would speak, but I would be like, make mistakes, right? Or like do a lot of hesitation. But then as time passed by, then I improved, and then now some of those people may say like, oh yeah, he speaks Japanese.
Yeah.
So it's like a reversed old puppy syndrome type of thing, or like maybe people not supporting you, trying to like not necessarily bring you down, but it's like it's uncomfortable, you know? Like if you, because you've been to Japan, imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine that someone grabbed you when you are like struggling, and then he's like, oh yeah, say this again.
Yeah.
You're like, bro or mate or whoever, like, you know, I'm struggling. Why
Yeah.
do you want to see me, you know, in a bad way? But then I don't know, I find that really interesting. And then, you know, I guess it's like maybe the message is also like pushing through, but it's tricky. It's tricky because you're right. Like there is people who just want to bring you down for whatever reason, and then it's a matter of like staying consistent, right?
Yeah, I think you can compare as well, like the reaction to like trying to speak a different language in different countries. If you try to speak Japanese, like in Japan as a non-Japanese person, if you just say like konnichiwa, it's like, oh, your Japanese is so good. But then if you come to Australia, you have lots of people who not English as their first language, who try to speak English and just get knocked down by people, because I think it's like there's an expectation in English speaking countries because there's like so much, it's just so completely surrounded by English. They just expect everyone to be able to speak it and to be able to understand. So there's like really lack of understanding, I think, amongst lots of English speaking countries, where they don't understand how hard it is to speak another language. I think that's one of the things that when I was learning Japanese, that really put into perspective. Because before I'd never learned different language. I didn't really understand like how hard it was when people were trying to speak English to me. I was just like, I just don't really understand. It didn't really click in the same way as it did once I started to learn different language. Once I went to Japan and was completely surrounded, like this is so difficult.
And how did your perception of language learning, if you will, or even like coming back to Australia, because it's been a year, so I guess lots of time to reflect and think about it. How has that experience of learning Japanese shaped your view on how people, for example, come to Australia, try to speak English, or vice versa? As a native English speaker, putting yourself out there, going to another country, learning a new language, which is arguably like almost the complete opposite of English in everything, grammar, pronunciation, alphabet. Like, I mean, you could have picked Spanish, but I mean, Spanish is not 100% different. You pick something like completely.
Yeah, at least like if you from an English speaker perspective to learn Spanish, you can already read pretty much all of it. But you go to Japanese, like completely different script. You know,
True.
Can't read anything.
So how has this experience, let's say, impacted you, or how are you like looking at things?
I think completely changes the perspective of like people who English is not their first language who come to Australia, especially like just things at work, just people come like trying to ask for something and not be able to describe it properly. I just understand more about like trying to be more patient and understand that it's really hard for them to describe what they're trying to do, and it's not because they're dumb or something. It's just because it's completely different to what they're used to. And if they were speaking their native language, it's just so much different. Because if you're in a context where you don't understand, it's so much easier to if you think I could just express the words that I want to say, it'd be so much easier to resolve a certain situation.
That's so true. And this reminds me of there is a clip from Sofia Vergara. She's I don't know if you've seen it, but
she's in Modern Family.
Yeah, that's right. And she's like with like a super strong Spanish accent, like you should see me in Spanish. And I think like a lot of us, and this could be said to every nationality, a lot of people feel that like, for example, it could be like the reverse, like, mate, I know my English is not perfect, but let's talk in Spanish. Or if you listen to me in Spanish, you will see how, I mean.
Yeah.
And, or like if you see me in my mother tongue, or, because I mean, now you have that experience, right? So you know, like, okay, let's talk in Japanese. And you're like, oh, shush, it's, you know, it's not easy, you know? So it's interesting. Because I guess if you've never learned a language or if you haven't had that experience, it's like, oh yeah, it's this. Oh yeah, it's that. But then it's like, oh, maybe it is not that. And sometimes something as simple could have a completely different name or even pronunciation. So yeah, very tricky.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm just also wondering, and how about your Japanese study? I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. Have you, after your time in Japan, did you continue, let's say?
Yeah, I'm still studying Japanese at university. I'm up to Japanese 6 now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and like when I started Japanese at university from Japanese 1. And I thought, like when I was starting, I'd think if I can do like 3 years, like finish Japanese 6, I'll be fluent. I'll be able to talk to everyone, be able to do everything. It's just completely not the case. I've still got so far to go. But also just comparing back to when I started, just puts back into perspective. You actually have made a lot of progress. I can read a lot more. I can speak, can do all these things that I just couldn't when I was like at the start. So I think it's important, especially when you're learning a different language, to recognize like the progress you've made, and pat yourself on the back sometimes, even if something's not going well. Just think, if this was like a year ago and I hadn't done anything, like I'm so much better than what I was before.
I'm really happy you brought this up, because I've had students who message me and say, hey, Emilio, I want to get my English proficiency test. I have been in Australia for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I came with 0 English. I finished in intermediate or upper intermediate, even in advanced. I think that maybe upper intermediate is close to the Japanese 6. I have to check. But let's assuming it is that. It's like, like intermediate plus, let's say.
Yeah.
And then they go like, oh, but my speaking sucks and this and that. And they bring themselves down so much. And I'm like, mate, you came here with, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
How much? Where is the toilet?
Yeah.
And now you're writing a 300-word essay, like exactly what you were saying, like pat yourself on the back. Is it going to be as awesome as it is in Spanish? Well, obviously no. Or in whatever language you speak, obviously no. But when you look back a little bit, you go, oh, wow. X amount of years ago, I was just having a very, very basic conversation. So I think it's really good. I like that you just brought this up. It's so true.
It's all a process too. Trust the process. And there's always going to be things to learn, no matter what level, I think, of proficiency you have. Just like things today, like we were talking about, like different words, like buddy and champ, like just still trying to learn different things, even if you're fluent in a language, just learning all the time.
That's right. I mean, there is always something. And I guess from this, I also want to add that sometimes, and I also tell this to students, but I'm happy you said it, because if I say it, it's boring. Yeah. But if someone else says it, it's like, oh, wow, Angus said this. And it's true. Like sometimes we may not see the progress. And a good example could be what I've said before, like me not passing the Japanese exam, and now I'm just putting a bunch of hours to improve a little bit more on comprehension. And it's not like I can tell you, oh, it's crazy, like I'm gonna, get full score. Mm-hmm. But at least now when I'm reading, it's like, wow, compared to a year ago, I can read a little bit faster,
Yeah.
Am I a Japanese person? No. Can I grab the newspaper and read it in like 30 seconds? No, but it's like there is progress, and that's, I guess, the underlying message. That
I understanding as well, all the little bits to study, they all add up. There's this saying, like, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Okay. What is that? Tell us a bit more about that. That's
well, if you to put it to use the language analogy, it's like you're not going to be able to be fluent in a language in one day. You have to learn all the different things. You have to learn the rules, learn the grammar, learn the vocab. You have to practice so much, and then eventually you improve your level, improve your understanding.
That's so good. I like that one. Rome wasn't built in a day. One that we used a lot in Japan was, I think, is while in Rome.
You went in Rome.
When in Rome.
Yeah.
And then the next half is do like Romans or do as Romans?
When in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Nice.
Yeah. It's different, but it's just another.
Yeah, I mean, I always use that because, say, for example, like, it's little things, but say, for example, when we were in Japan, like, if we go on the sushi train, I'll be like, hey, try this. And you're like, what's this? It looks like yogurt. And it's like, I don't even know what it is, bro. It's like egg with lemon. I don't know. It looks weird, but try it.
Yeah.
Japanese people love it, and they're very happy when we try it. Let's try it. And little things like that. And it's just taking that experience to another level.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe we could say, when in Australia, do us Australians. Random fact, I got a barbecue, so I feel a little bit more Australian now. So yeah, maybe this could be that, not necessarily wake-up call, but this way of reminding our listeners to put themselves out there, be patient, know that it's a process. I always say that also from like all the practice with sports, like it's not a sprint, it's like a marathon. Mm-hmm. So it's like just take your time. Yeah. Obviously, there are certain things like deadlines, you know.
I think even if it is a sprint, there's still a lot of work that's got to go into it.
Well, true. That's a very good point. So look, it's very tricky, and you drop so many good gems in those like 2 minutes. So that's really, really interesting. I'm really happy to hear that. Random question: have you thought of learning another language now that you started learning Japanese? Do you have anything that gets your interest?
I want to learn Spanish.
Oh, look at that! Look, I get a lot of people are going to be very happy.
Yeah,
and look, it's I think it's a very good pick because all the practice you have put into Japanese with pronunciation, it will go into Spanish because we have the same sounds. Yeah, and it's going to be easier for you.
I've heard like once you've studied another language, like the next one's always easier. Is that true?
Whoa, I want to say yes, but look, I'm also a bit of a nerd, so let's say yes. Let's say yes. Okay. You still have to put in the work, but it's. I guess. Look, I normally use this analogy. I get a feeling that it could be like playing an instrument or like going to the gym. Like if you do a certain exercise or a certain muscle group so much, maybe eventually, maybe that muscle group will help or make less difficult. Yeah. But you still have to do all the reps and everything.
Yeah. I think it's also just understanding the process.
Oh, true.
Yeah. Being able to apply what you've learned from one thing to the other, which works for like a gym analogy as well. Because you have to go do like certain amount of reps and repeat it every week. Having that consistency, same with language learning.
You know what I just thought? Because sometimes people come to Australia, and something that I've said in the past is it is important to like enjoy your time as a student. And what I mean by that is that many international students, and we were talking about this, like how's life? Oh, uni, work, training, da 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 da. Yeah. But work is always there, and for people who, let's say lots of people from South America and other parts of the world, we come and to stay here, we have to work and study. Yeah. But I think that a lot of the time we get caught up in too much work. But I tell students, like, enjoy the time you've got, let's say, being a student. Obviously, with being reasonable, right? But especially like the first year or two, because then it's like they can experience more and get more from Australia. Sometimes you get like two different scenarios. One is people maybe rushing too much, like, oh, I arrived. Hi, how are you? How much is this? And then they want to get to like advanced in a year. And it's like, maybe you could, but then is that like the best approach? I don't know. We could argue about that.
I think balance is an important thing as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think when you're saying like Rome wasn't built in a day, it's the same thing. It's not like, okay, you just got to Australia or whatever country you want to go. It's not like, in a month you're going to be, boom, exactly like them type of thing. So giving yourself a bit of patience as well, balance. Mm-hmm. Nice. Damn, Angus, look at that. Yeah. Amazing episode. Look, I have to put you on the spotlight because we're getting close towards the end. Mm-hmm. But, we talked about so many different things. Anything else you would like to tell our viewers? They're already very happy because you said you want to learn Spanish. But anything else you would like to say, everybody?
Thank you for listening. Like, comment, subscribe.
Okay, thank you. I don't have to do that. I will add up to that. Thank you for being part of this episode because, maybe I heard from a student who told me, Emilio, I listen to your podcast every single morning. And it's like, wow, no pressure. Yeah. But I was like, whoa, thank you. So thank you for, tuning in either here on YouTube or on Spotify. Like you said, remember to leave a 5-star review. Remember to leave a comment as well. Tell us what you think about this. We talked about so many things. I guess one of the biggest tips is don't call people champ. Unless you want to get in trouble. So please don't. Even if you don't like someone, don't call them champ or hero, muscles, chief, buddy. Don't use those words, okay? But watch out, because if you hear them, maybe something, I don't know, maybe that could be the beginning of a fight or something. But look, this was episode 103. I had an awesome time. I hope you also had a good time.
Had the best time.
Oh, thank you. Look, we have to do a part 2.
Yeah.
But, I think with life, work, training, life is a bit crazy. But yeah, definitely we'll be doing a part 2.
Sounds awesome.
And look, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next week. So miss me, don't miss me too much. And until then, I'll see you for the next episode. Take care and bye for now. See ya.